Great. Sharon, we are all set to go. I
Okay.
have control of the presentation and
Thank you.
Yeah.
Okay, I am calling to order the Aberdeen Architectural Conservation District Commission public hearing at 4:03 on August 13, 2026. Commissioners present are Helen Pillsbury, Ed Breedenberg, Kirsten Hoffman, and Sharon Cayley. Today, the Commission will be holding a public hearing to review applications in accordance with the Commonwealth of Massachusetts Executive Order suspending certain provisions of the open meeting law. We are conducting this meeting online to ensure public access to the deliberations of the Aberdeen Architectural Conservation District Commission. The public may access this call through telephone and video conferencing. Members of the public will have an opportunity to ask questions and provide public comment on applications and discussions. To do so, please raise your hand in the application via the Zoom meeting platform. We will repeat these instructions throughout the hearing. We will begin with application number 270038. That's 52 LANARK Road.
Sharon, sorry, the meeting minutes first. I apologize.
I'm sorry, the meeting minutes?
Yeah, we ratify the meeting minutes first.
Oh, you're right. I was thinking that at the end. My apologies.
That's okay.
All right. We'd like to ratify the meeting minutes of March 25 and the subcommittee meeting of March 31. That would be, and as well as the meeting minutes of July 9, 2026. Have all of the commissioners read the meeting minutes, and do they have any alterations?
Read, no alterations.
I'd like to entertain a suggestion that we accept them as submitted.
So moved.
I'll second it. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All right.
Okay.
Thank you very much.
All right.
Moving on. We'll begin the design review hearing for application 270038. That's 52 LANARK Road. Remove and replace the brick staircase and brick retaining wall. Presentation?
Okay, so it looks like we're looking for, let's see here. 52 Lanark Road. That would be Craig Gonsalves. Craig, are you here? If you're calling from a phone, you can press *9 to raise your hand and I can unmute you. There he is. I had a feeling. Okay. Craig, you should be able to unmute yourself.
Can you guys hear me?
We can hear
Yes.
you. Yep.
How are you guys?
Good. Good. All right, Craig. So we have your presentation up here on the screen. And we also have the ability to go to Google Street View if you need to. So why don't you just explain to us what you're doing? I know you're calling in, but just explain what the project consists of.
Yeah, so there is a brick and CMU retaining wall on the property, and also a set of brick stairs that are failing. The bricks are, starting to pull away from the CMU wall, and it looks like, there's been a lot of water, that's gotten behind it, and it's all kind of, falling down. It's the staircase itself is really starting to kind of settle. I believe the property manager, of this property reached out to me, and they simply just kind of want to, fully remove the brick and the CMU block behind it, and kind of rebuild that, that same structure with the same footprint with, new CMU block with the proper drainage behind it. This wall has, no weep holes. So, when water gets behind this retaining wall, it probably is getting trapped, getting into the the CMU in behind the brick, and it's kind of, pushing everything away. So we want to put, new drainage behind it, fully redo the stairs, just because, they're starting to settle and kind of shift away and things like that. They want to try to keep the repair as, cost effective as possible. So kind of just, reconstruct that CMU block wall, which is going to have steel reinforcement, rebar. The wall is going to be fully grouted, with ties going back into the banking. And it's going to be stuccoed with a granite cap.
And Craig, will this match the other side of the retaining wall? It looks like a very similar stone is being proposed.
So there is a retaining wall, like if you're kind of looking at the staircase, there is a retaining wall that's a dry stack, like landscape retaining wall.
We're looking at it right now.
And that has kind of shifted. So, with that wall, we're just kind of remove, dismantle that, put the proper drainage behind that and, reinstall, those same retaining wall block back up. That is like a split face block wall that's there now. And, the remaining of it, moving from the stairs to the right is that brick wall, we could say. So we're going to, they just want to, replace, that side with the CMU and the granite.
Okay. Thanks, Craig. Commissioners, do we have any questions, comments, concerns?
Can you, I'm a little unclear on what the material, when you're saying what the exterior material on the new facing would be. Will it be a brick or a block, I should say, like the gray retaining wall we see, or is it a different material?
Yep. So it's going to be a different material than the brick. It's going to be, so a CMU block is, basically your standard, like cinder block.
Right.
And we're going to stuff the block, so you don't see, the actual block work. It will just look like a nice, smooth concrete wall. And just, instead of like a brick cap, it will have a 2-inch thick, by 12-inch wide granite cap, that will kind of, go parallel all around, on the top of that, just to cap that block wall.
So the new area will have an appearance similar to the already existing, the wall that you're going to just basically restore.
Yeah, so it's, there now, some of it has kind of pulled away, which is, the red brick. And they do want to try to keep the cost down. So instead of putting the new brick, back on, it will still have the same footprint as what's, originally there. It will just look more of like, like a finished, nice concrete wall with that cap on it.
Right. And what is the extent of this? I see that curved brick wall, but then that wall continues at kind of a 90-degree angle, and then it goes down the right-hand side of the driveway. Would this be covered, that whole area, or including that place where it's really like really deteriorated there, right near the curb or near?
Yeah. So the existing wall is going to be fully removed. All the brickwork, the concrete block that's behind it right now. It looks like the concrete block that's there hasn't really shifted too much for like deterioration purposes. When I kind of looked at it, it definitely seems more of like it was an improper install of the original contractor. I didn't really see any brick ties, that will tie that, that brick veneer wall to that concrete block wall. So, the water probably got in, from behind that CMU, it got in between the brick and the block. And, with things freezing and thawing, it probably started to freeze and expand and pull that block away. I mean, that brick away.
Thank you.
So,
sorry.
No, that's okay. What were you saying?
Just thank you for that explanation. Just one other question. I assume you're replacing the stairs as well. Like, what material will the stairs be?
So the stairs are going to be the same as the new wall that we're going to be building. You know, we're going to build the staircase, you know, out of that concrete block, and it's going to have that finished stucco with the granite caps as well.
Okay,
Going
so
up the
everything will be,
staircase.
the whole thing will be consistent.
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Terrific. Okay. Any other comments from the commissioners before we go to public comment?
Lynn covered absolutely everything I was going to ask about.
Yeah.
But actually, I do have one other question, Nick, and this was not in the presentation, so I'm not clear what this means, but in the project description from the portal, it says repair wooden walkway and install wooden handrail on both sides of walkway. Is that,
So on the
where is that? At what?
So that is on the top of the staircase. It's more of like a wooden deck area, but it, you know, it is a walkway.
Okay,
Yeah.
gotcha.
And it, you know, that's really just like a very minor repair, just to kind of fix some of the wood that has kind of shifted and moved a little bit, and just to put, you know, like a basic handrail. So when someone is, you know, exiting the house or entering it,
Right.
you know, when they're walking, they have something able to hold on to, you know, for like winter conditions if it gets slippery or something.
Okay, thank you.
Well, anyone else have anything they'd like to add? I think Helen was very thorough and the presentation seems to be quite comprehensive. If not, then we will go to public comments. Members of the public will have an opportunity to ask questions and provide public comments on applications and discussions. To do so, please raise your hand in the application via the Zoom meeting platform. We will repeat these instructions throughout the hearing.
Okay. First up for public comment we have is Ava. Ava, go ahead.
Yes, thank you. I was concerned when I heard the gentleman say that this proposed wall would be finished with stucco, because as I walk around the neighborhood, I see a lot of retaining walls that have failing stucco on them. Any moisture that kind of gets through the wall, it just makes the stucco soak it up and then crack. I saw it on Strathmore, I saw it on Englewood, and so on. And I'm alarmed by the proponents' remark that the owners who are investors, who own a house that's valued at almost $2 million, don't want to spend enough money on this. We cannot be judging this project in isolation of the entire look of the property. And as you have noticed, there is parking lot in the front, and it has a certain, you know, not ideal cement blocks because they look very modern, but they constitute the majority of that front yard. So I really think that the replacement of this failing brick wall should use the same materials so it all looks coherent. And I really, you know, we have to think about the impact on the entire district. Other people are really denying themselves maybe going on vacation or going out to restaurants because they want to do quality repairs on their houses. And then an investor comes in and just wants to do a cheaper job. So,
okay, I'm sorry to interrupt, Mrs. Webster. I should have asked you to try to keep your comments to 5 minutes.
Okay, I'm done. I'm done. Thank you so much. Just please make it coherent so it matches the rest of the property.
All right. Any other public, sorry?
Oh, that's okay. No.
Any other public comments?
I do not see any other public comment, Sharon, so we can close it for this application.
All right. Are we ready then to take a vote on the application as submitted?
I'm sorry, but can we get clarification? Because I thought one of the questions I asked is it said that the other side is going to be blocked. The new material will be blocked. So now I'm not clear on what the actual facing exterior material will be on that curved edge and going across and down the right hand. Will it be stucco or will it be those blocks?
So the actual structure is going to be made out of the CMU block, which, is going to be, fully structurally sound, inside the cores or the holes of the block, tied into the footing for it is going to have, number 5 steel rebar, going vertically and horizontally within the blockwork. And then the entire blockwork is, going to be filled solid with grout. So the wall itself will be solid. And instead of, leaving, just like a concrete block wall, we're going to do that finished stucco. And, I can't really say for, the other properties around, with the failing stucco, it could be, an older material, or the newer material that we use is a fiber reinforced concrete stucco. And those fibers within that concrete almost act as like steel reinforcement in like a concrete patio, you could say, versus a stucco. So the longevity of that material is a lot longer than your standard, regular cement or stucco. And the final product of it, it's going to be sponged smooth of the stucco. So it will really be a really nice smooth finish on that block work. You won't see any of the actual, gray concrete block. And then once everything is cured, it will, all that stucco will be waterproofed and sealed, just to help for moisture, and for future deterioration.
Thank you. Nick, can we kind of get your guidance if that's an appropriate material?
So it is an appropriate material, but I was under the impression that the blocks would match the other side when I was reviewing the application. So that's where I based my staff comments on.
Right.
But yes, that is an appropriate type of clad or stucco material. That's fine. But I was under the impression that it was going to match the other side, which is why I made the recommendation to approve.
Sorry.
I think we should be asking for something similar to the other side, truthfully, because we're going to have a solid concrete wall on one side, and then a solid, and then brick on the other, or like the compressed material
CMU block. Yeah.
Yeah, I think it should be very similar to the other. This product is readily available, and it's a pretty relatively small, low price, and it's cost effective. So I think you should probably match the other side.
So
yeah, actually, that was the impression I got too from reading the presentation. So introducing stucco seems unnecessary.
So, with this project, I'm just, was, quoting out, what the customer had asked me
Sure.
to do for this.
Mm-hmm.
Nick, could we approve with provisos that the exterior material be match the existing material with review by staff?
You could do the approval with provisos and request that it have a similar brick as the other side, and then if the owners, if the applicant wants to go back to the owners to discuss this further, I can have a discussion with them at a later date, and we can kind of discuss a path forward. But yes, you can do that.
I would want them to. I would want you to see a sample of the material.
Sure.
If we approve it with provisos, just to make sure there's no misunderstanding of what material gets used.
Yeah, and I might even recommend, approving the stair, the treads of the stair to be approved as presented, and then obviously the wood decking section be approved as presented, and then require them to use a similar stone on the other side.
Yeah, that sounds reasonable.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, Helen, since you've summed it up so nicely, can I ask you to, I think we're ready to make a proposal, unless Ed or Kirsten, would you like to add anything?
No, I was right on board
I don't
with
know. Yeah.
having the two sides match each other.
Okay. All right, in that case, then let me go back to Helen. You summed it up very nicely. So can I ask you to make the nomination?
Okay, I'll make-
The approval with provisos, and the provisos, you know.
okay, thanks. So I'll make a motion to approve the application, including the wooden stairs as proposed and the step treads as proposed, but to require the facing or exterior material of the curved part, and from there along the front and edge of the garage to be a stone similar to the existing stone on the left-hand side, and for a sample of the material to be presented to staff for approval.
Okay, I'm happy to second the motion. Ready to take a vote? Helen,
Aye.
Ed,
Aye.
Kirsten,
Aye.
and I from me. So the motion is approved with provisos.
Thank you, Craig. We can chat tomorrow if you'd like and discuss a path forward. Okay.
That would be perfect.
Thanks.
Okay, thank you, Ed.
Thanks for coming. Yep.
Thank you.
Next on the agenda is application number 261100. That is 2 Egremont Road.
Okay. I saw Eric. Eric, I have you unmuted, and then Adela, if you want to also talk, I have you unmuted as well.
Should we just dive in?
Yep.
Yes, please start.
Excellent. So we presented this July 9, I believe.
Mhm.
And the intent is, as a refresher, the intent is taking the existing building, which historically was a garage, but has been operated as a two-family for quite some time. We have received zoning approval to add this third story, thereby expanding the upper unit to make it a 3-bed, 2.5 bath, or 3-bed, 3-bath, I believe. And in doing so, we're adding the addition you see here, the black area above the existing brick. So the, and I have other drawings, but I think this is kind of probably the most impactful. The intent is to take the existing garage door infill and replace that with a glass, a gridded window a grid of windows, which kind of mimic the original garage door expression, to add a couple of sconces on either side of it, of that door, to reconfigure the level above. Currently doesn't have any windows, and so we're going to be adding 3 windows facing towards Cummings here, and then on the level above that we have 3 additional windows. So next slide, please. Yeah, so here you see the site plan. The building is set back a little bit from the sidewalk. It was requested that we show a landscape plan, or show what we were planning for the landscape. And as you can see here, there'd be a small walkway over a portion of what had been the driveway, and then the rest of it will be infilled with grass, a shrubbery, and that larger bush towards right in the kind of center of it. Next slide. Also, I should mention the actual entrance to this, and you can see it in the upper right here. The actual entrance to the building is on the upper right-hand corner, and that's existing. That's always been that way. I believe the way it used to work is that there was a garage door. The front one was a garage door, and the one behind was to sleeping quarters up above. That existing stair looks like it's probably been there since the building was built. And so now on the first floor, you've got a single 1-bedroom apartment. And then above that, on the second floor, you have 2 beds and 2 baths. And on the top floor, you have a living, kitchen, dining with a 3rd bed and a full bath. Next slide. So the intent here is that, that the top floor is going to be lap siding effectively. Cement fiber or acre product, and then the I believe it is the Acre product. And then the windows would be set on the level on the third floor to match or to align with the windows on the second floor, both in the rear where we have existing windows, which is on the upper left, in the lower right, on the right side where we have the entrance door, and then on the lower left, you see the elevation that is just 15 inches away from the existing neighbor. There was a window there. There was some question about that in the last meeting. The reality is, because it's 15 inches away, we could technically be grandfathered in to leave the existing window, but we think it's safer to put in the appropriate 1 hour wall that you would have to do with a new construction. So we're proposing filling that in, and then the exterior expression is going to be the same lap siding that's on the top building. I believe there are probably some questions, some things that I'm familiar with, but I'm kind of stepping past. But yeah, you can see the existing elevations are at the back of this set as well, in case you want to kind of compare. But I'll open it up for questions and comments.
Yeah, Eric, and let me just chime in here to refresh the commission what they asked for. So commissioners, you had asked last time to change the windows from one solid pane of window to 1/1s. You had requested for the addition at the top level to be set back on all sides slightly to give some dimension, which Eric has done. You also had asked for some landscaping in the front, and then to see a sample of the product, which I have here. And I have reviewed, and I think it's a good, suitable material for an addition onto a historic building. Being loosely put, but and then I think that and then we asked for some changes to happen at the garage, the former garage door area, for these glass windows to fill the space a little bit more. Eric, can you talk about the other changes that you made to this door? We talked about this during the desk review here. And let me just go back. Whoops, sorry. Okay. If you could just talk about the changes there that happened so that the commission can understand what has changed.
Yeah, I was afraid you were going to test my memory on this because we've gone through so many different iterations on it.
Yeah.
Basically, we had a number of windows. I don't remember what the pattern was, but the request was to make it feel even more like a garage door. So we kind of enlarged the glazing surfaces. I'm not sure if we redid the pattern in order to get to this kind of 9 grid and 6 grid on left and right. We have aligned the infill panels, which you see here in kind of a darker gray color. We've aligned those with the joints of the windows. All of that in order to try and make this feel more like kind of the obvious garage door opening that it once was. There are the row you see down the middle is operable because this is a living room and a bedroom on the other side of it.
Yep. And then the other thing that you had asked the applicant was to go from a vertical seam on the upper level to a horizontal seam, which he has done, and I think it actually looks really lovely. So, the other thing that was added are the lights at the front to give it a little bit more depth. And then in terms of the landscaping in front, Eric, what's the vegetation that you're adding here on the front? Do you remember the name of it? Looks like a chokeberry. Yes. Good.
Yeah.
Yes. Great. And I think that was it. So commissioners, we'll hold it, pass it over to you. And if you have any questions, just let Eric know.
Okay, let me begin by saying I think that all of the modifications that we requested last meeting have been implemented very well, and I do like the end result. Going to turn it over to the rest of the commissioners, but I think we've been pretty thorough on this one so far. Ed, Helen?
Yeah, I agree. All the changes that we had asked for seem to be implemented.
Okay, Kirsten, do you have anything to add? If everyone has,
Sharon, I just want to make one comment. I agree with the others that
okay,
the proponent has followed all of our guidance and done a nice job in implementing those ideas. I just want to suggest to the commissioners that if we accept this new material for the third floor, that we are clear in specifying that that it's an addition. It's like not. It's an addition to a historic structure. That it's not even restoring an existing part of the building. It's a new part of the building that we are permitting this new material to be used, because I don't want to be in conflict with other decisions we made. I still stand by our decision on 19 to 21 Orkney,
of
or
the hardy
17 to
board.
19 Orkney for
Yeah.
defect address, where we required the clapboard, the the natural clapboard material, and
Yeah.
that was a full restoration of a historic house. So that's to me the distinguishing factor that I feel that if we do find this appropriate, that is the reason that it would be acceptable to use this new material.
It's a good distinction, Helen. Thanks. Yes. All right. Any other comments from commissioners? Then we'll move.
Commissioners, just for the record, why don't you just have Eric state where the HVAC equipment is?
Ah,
Okay.
yeah,
Is it-
Eric.
Yeah, our intent is that there will be two condensers located behind the building on the ground.
So they're out of the public view, out of view of the
Yes.
public way. And the sort of cap on, just while we're going to introduce, is that sort of like a cap along the top
Mhm.
of the and what material is that?
Painted metal.
Okay, that's nice. Thank you.
Mhm. Yeah.
Does the
Okay,
cap,
if we are all ready to go, I'd like to open it up to the public.
could I just
members
ask
of-
one question about the cap?
Oh,
So is
sure,
the
sorry.
cap, the
Yeah.
cap looks like it's wider than the addition, but it's still narrower than the original footprint?
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a few inches wider than the third floor, which would make it a few inches narrower than the second floor.
Perfect, thank you.
Okay.
Yeah. Are we ready for the public? Members
like
of the public will have an opportunity to ask questions and provide public comment on applications and discussions. To do so, please raise your hand in the application via the Zoom meeting platform. We will repeat these instructions throughout the hearing.
Okay, and what's the time limit, Sharon? I think
Oh, I'm
there's-
sorry. Thank you for the reminder. Yes, we ask that you keep the comments to 5 minutes.
Terrific. Okay. Ava, you're up first.
Sorry, could you show the illustration of the picture that shows the colors? Oh, yes, this one. Well, just to start on a positive note, I'm glad that there is this cornice at the top and there is some line that separates the brick part of the facade from the top addition. But I think that there might be some confusion because when I recall the last hearing you had on this, we were talking about windows having mountains, not 1/1. So I don't know who may have misheard it, me or you, or I was just hoping to see, we were talking something like 6/1 windows, which I think it would dress it up very nicely. And in terms of this garage door, I know that this is just a computer simulation, but I think that a garage door like that would have smaller lights they wouldn't be so wide and only 3 of them for the entire height of the doors. So when they order those windows, they can specify to make the lights smaller, which would be fitting with the time of this district better. And the last thing is, and I know that this is it's a little touchy because the commission doesn't theoretically regulate colors, but I really think that the color at the top is just too dark. It's just looking. Nobody would paint a top story of any structure in this district in such a dark color. So, and also it doesn't provide enough contrast with the dark window trim. And I'm trying to make sure, is it actually dark brown or is it black? For the windows on the top story to stand out better, I would just request that the applicant consider, please, making the color of the siding, of the new siding, lighter, something like amber color, something like that. And this way, the darker window would stand out nicely against the lighter color of the siding. Yeah, that's all I have. So the mountains on the windows, the size of the lights on the garage, quasi-garage door, and the too dark color of the top story. Thank you.
Thank you, Ava. All right. Okay, I'm not seeing any other public comment, commissioners. So just as a quick recap here, so staff is recommending approval as submitted, with the understanding that final construction documents will be submitted prior to the approval of the permit.
Nick, can I just ask one other question?
Mhm.
Evan's talking about the windows and everything, but I just want to check on the material for the windows and that the window frame material meets the guidelines of the.
Eric?
Yeah, well, our intent has been to be aluminum clad wood windows, a good long lasting product that we tend to see as the standard for most variance projects in Austin.
Thank you.
Oh, also, and commissioners, in response to Ava's comment about the windows, it was discussed that there would be a division in the window, meaning the 1/1. I don't think we discussed the multi-paned window.
No, I remember, looking at
Yeah.
my notes, Nick, we did settle on the 1/1,
Yeah,
given the
okay.
size of the overall structure, yes. So,
I guess I just want to ask the other commissioners, I want to take Eva's comments into consideration. Are we okay with the color? Do we feel that needs to be modified? And again, I'm not sure that we actually have.
We don't regulate
Purview over
color,
color.
unfortunately. Yeah.
well, I rather like the color combination. I would not want to monkey with color when it comes to the top floor. The whole thing looks pretty coherent to me now.
Yeah.
So, well, I'll entertain a nomination.
I'd like to put forward a motion to approve it as submitted with the construction material submitted to staff, with this construction plan submitted to staff.
I'll second it.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All right,
Perfect.
that is approved.
Thank you very much.
Eric, Adela, thank you so much for your cooperation. We really enjoyed working with you, and we're really excited to see the final product here. So thanks for your hard work and your understanding and patience through this entire process.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you.
And are we ready to move on to application 27.0092? That's 1954 Commonwealth Avenue. This is a design review. Is there anything that we haven't seen already?
So Sharon, we're gonna allow the applicant to present the presentation.
Okay.
So we have Mark and
Susan.
yeah, for whatever
Oh,
reason, Susan.
she's on my computer with me. We're right
Oh,
here.
perfect.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay.
Mark, do you want control of the presentation, or do you want me to flip through for you?
I'll do it if you don't mind.
Sure. Let me
Nope.
just make you co-host.
This is our first.
Okay. Go ahead, Mark, and just make sure that you discuss all the changes that you've made in response to the commission.
Sure. Why don't I see the,
Is this?
oh,
That's a preview though.
I'm gonna just go through quickly the slides that were presented. And then we can look at the 3D too. So on the last, I'm gonna have Susan start with the landscape first. Go ahead, Susan.
Really, we didn't make too many changes in the landscape. The one major sort of issue that was outstanding was where we were going to locate the electrical vault and the size of it. We now have an 8 by 13 electrical vault that will be located mostly within that lawn panel in the front right corner of the property. And earlier we did have two shade trees in the lawn panel, but I know we talked about trying to keep the two trees, so we've had to pull them forward, and we'll change the species a little bit, but they will still be a sort of smaller scale native shade tree as was requested in the earlier hearings. And we've had to simplify the landscape foundation planting in the front to be able to get the vault in and move the tree. So that was really the major change. And then we've added the other new street tree where the old driveway curb cut was. So those were sort of the two main changes from the last public meeting that we had.
As for the architecture, I think that we had a fairly extensive review last time when we modified. I think everyone was pretty happy. We made some modifications right during the meeting, and those included we pushed the tower back. We put a nice roof on the tower. We flattened the roof at the rear. We did the balconies solid. Some of the things we organized since the last meeting, the comments we organized some of the I'm going to go to the 3D. I think that'll help better. So everyone can see this now. We organized the windows and doors to the balconies, so they're a little more uniform. One thing though that I am going to push back a little bit on, I'm willing to do the flat corners on the front of the building, and perhaps the solid railings, but on the rear of the building, I really want to do the chamfered corners. I feel that it's sandwiched in between these two brick buildings, and that it'll there's an implied force on any structure that you build, and this has kind of an implication. It's in between these two buildings, and I think it'll create a nice positive effect. In any architecture, you want to have some delight, right? You just don't want to have everything, monotone, or this solves this problem. So I think this will add a little bit of delight. And then on on top of the roof, I would like to keep the balls. I think they do add something to the building and create a nice little, again, delight. And it matches the two balls on the front of the existing house. Those are really the only changes that we've made. Other than, and also I'd like to do I don't want to do the solid rails on the rear. I want to do the metal rails. This building is going to be a condominium, so I think it's not going to be a case where you have apartments and people trashing their balconies. think people are more inclined to take their owner occupied. The metal is a mission style railing. Many mission style buildings had the metal rails, and since it is owner occupied, people will be taking care of their balconies. And then getting into the color of the building, I'm going to go back to the other presentation. So we want to do the two. I know you're not regulating color, but what we're thinking about doing is, of course, is the red tile roofs, some red tile on the face of the tower, the stucco, a cream colored stucco, and then a historic green color for the metalwork, the windows, the fascia on the overhangs and the railings. That's really basically it.
Mark, will you talk about the color of the proposed building compared to the existing building? Is there going to be a gradient change or difference?
No, I'll both be the same color. They'll both have the same color scheme.
Okay. Mark, explain to the commissioners where the HVAC is, just for the refresh your memory.
Sure. Most of the HVAC is on the roof of the addition,
Ah,
behind the parapet. Also on the roof, there's some green areas that are accessible. And then there's a couple of spots that are not visible from the street that we're hiding the HVAC on the for the existing house. See if I can find it.
It's on.
mm,
One is behind this area. There's like a little deck courtyard back here. One's there. One's on behind the porte cochere. And that's about it, really. They're hidden from view.
Good.
mhm.
And then one last thing, Mark, and then I'll let the commission discuss this. The doors to the garage, it was a little unclear on your submittal as to whether or not they're being kept, or was it a rendering error? Can you explain that to the commission?
Yeah, the doors to the garage, we're gonna rebuild in kind to the same geometry
Perfect.
that they are.
Great.
They're not in great shape, so.
Okay, it was unclear, so we just wanted some clarification. Yeah, good. Okay. And then Mark, are you proposing to demolish the chimney on the existing
Yeah.
structure?
Yes, we are. We are.
Ah,
That.
mm.
Yeah, the back portion of the building here, we're going to demolish. And I think part of that is the chimney. It's kind of a lot going on back there. There's like a bay and a balcony, and we really can't incorporate it into the design. We have to have kind of a clean surface to tie into.
And that was allowed in the special permit and the approval that was given earlier.
The original design, or the original design for the addition?
Yes.
Yeah, that removal of that wall and the chimney were both approved.
Here's the rear of the building.
Yeah.
So it's virtually impossible to connect to this. There's so much going on here, and it would be hidden anyway. The building, or the new building, would be completely obscuring it.
All right, well, we focus on chimneys because we did have an issue over on the other side of Com Ave with a very distinctive chimney that had a crown effect on it. Can you blow up that
Yeah, hold
image
on.
number 6812?
It almost seems like a utility chimney.
Yeah, it does look like it doesn't have any, yeah. All right, thank you. That answers my
Okay.
question on that. Yeah. And I did have one question, and I know it's come up before, and I'm sorry to be repetitious, but I know that the handicap ramp has to be there and the space is constrained, but is there any way to stretch it or make it less of a 3 or 4 right angles? Or is this the best that can be done with the space allowed?
Um, what we tried to do was, this will be the main entrance for the new tower. So we wanted to coordinate that handicap accessibility with the main walkway that gets you to the back. And the only way we could really do it is to, do these ramps in
Okay.
between the planting beds. Otherwise, we wouldn't really be able to have the walkway with the steps that most people will be using.
Yeah. All right. Thank you.
And Sharon, I did check with our architectural access board on this. It is the preference of the board to have the ADA compliant entrance to be the same as the main entrance.
Okay.
Yep.
Okay. I was comparing it to other ramps that I've seen, and I know that the pitch is critically important, but okay. Are
Just-
we ready to move on to, is that the end of the presentation?
Yes.
I think so.
Could I ask for just a clarification on the ramp? So the reason why the ramp is there is because you wanted to also have the stairs. So is it a matter of you may have the ramp or you could have the stairs and you wanted to have the stairs, or?
We see the stairs as the main entry for non-disabled people, but the ramp is right there next to the stairs where somebody in a wheelchair could use the ramp and enter the same main entry as the stairs.
Sure, but what my question was is that is sort of the way that you worded it sounds as though a ramp would be possible for everyone to use. Is that the case?
Yeah, they could.
No, that's not the case.
What?
Because we went through all the earlier schemes that were presented, and they started with the handicap ramp back up underneath the porte cochere and had handrails on either side. And it was you have to have anything over 5%, you have to have a handrail. And there wasn't space for appropriate 5-foot wide landings at where the handicap ramp meets the sidewalk at ComAv. There was no landing at the base of that. So you had a ramp that was emptying directly onto ComAv with no landing. And then really the grading really doesn't work.
Ed, was your question, you mean get rid of the stairs and just have the handicap ramp?
But my question was that it sounded as though the way that you worded it, you said we installed the ramp because we wanted to have stairs. So my question is whether it sounds as though it's sort of either or, like you made the choice to make sort of that more sort of a complex ramp in order to have stairs. So basically my question is if you put a 5-foot landing at the bottom of the grade and the railing, would you be able to have a handicap access on the side?
The only I don't think I can't remember exactly what the situation was, but it would basically make the porte cochere an unusable space. What we've tried to do is make that accessible and also still have some outdoor space, because there is no other common outdoor space.
I think he's saying if you take the stair away, still have the zigzag handicap ramp. Is that what you're saying?
No, I'm saying
No, he's saying
eliminate.
just have a ramp.
Oh, just straight ramp?
Yes. So it sounds
Yeah.
as though that the reason why there's the zigzag is because you, by choice, would like to keep the area at the top flat and include the stairs. Is that correct?
Exactly. And we're not
Okay.
crazy about the long straight handicap ramp as
Also,
the
you
only
see the
entry, 'cause
building.
it's just not a safe situation.
But it all.
Well, what you're saying is it is physically possible to put the 5-foot landing on the bottom and have the handrails going up?
No, we're not saying that, because we looked at all the alternatives, and you can't be ADA compliant with a single ramp system from that building entry. It's not possible. There's not enough,
Well, you could get rid of the stairs and just still do the zigzag.
but he's saying not zigzag.
Yeah, but you
He's
could,
saying a
the
straight
one, but you could do it as a zigzag and
zigzag.
functionally make it work, but I wouldn't sign off on that because I don't really want everyone using the handicap ramp. People aren't used to them that much and it's not a good situation in the wintertime.
Well, there was a submittal we reviewed earlier before the design review and looked at all the proposed grades. It doesn't comply. It's non-compliant and that's in that packet that was submitted earlier. So you can take a look at it, but it doesn't work.
Which packet is this?
You're talking about the original approval for the original design before you guys took over.
Correct. There were two
Okay.
things, one that was approved, but there was a whole study analysis after we met with the BPDA of all the proposals that had been made. And I know it's in the packet that we reviewed earlier before our first desk review, or what was that? Advisory review.
Yeah.
So the documentation's there if you want to take a look at it.
What's the grade of the slope there, Susan? Do you know?
I don't even remember because if
Where Nick?
you're talking about the
Just-
yard itself.
Yeah.
It seems to me that was the old driveway, and for some reason I'm thinking it was greater than 10% slope to get back to the garage area, which was, it's further back.
Okay, and if I remember, Susan, and it's been a while since I've taken a landscaping class, but the maximum slope is like an 8% slope for an ADA ramp. Is that correct?
Correct. With
Oh, wow. I
and
still
that
remember
yeah. And it requires handrails on both sides and a landing every
15 feet.
yeah. So there's
Okay.
it's there are rules for how often you have to have the landing based on the slope and the length of the ramp.
Okay.
So I mean it was 10% back to, that's not even, you don't even show where the garage is. The garage is further back.
Right.
So it's for accessibility, it's pretty steep.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay.
Commissioners, for what it's worth, I think that's adequate. I think it sounds like it's erring on the side of caution and to be to be keeping our folks with mobility issues in mind. It's probably it's right there on that cusp of the 8% grade. So it's probably something that just needs to happen. It doesn't look the best, but if it means people with disabilities can get into the property, then
True. And landscaping helps a great deal.
Yeah, I would just like to suggest that in the landscaping plan that shrubbery there be the choice for that be something that would retain some greenery.
Yes. Actually, all three of those planting beds, I believe one's an azalea, one's they are evergreen.
Okay.
And they stay at a height under 4 foot in height. So
Right. And they also don't want to be too tall. That's right.
correct.
Retain greenery, but not too much height. Thank
Right.
you.
And we'll be able to keep as much of the stone wall in front as possible.
We will, we're still, if you look at what's proposed for the utilities, there's a lot of utilities and vaults that have gone in there. So we will do our best to try and keep it. If we can't keep it, we will be very diligent with our specifications to try and match what's there. But we'll do our best. But
The rendering that I saw on the portal sort of showed some other kind of stone. It didn't look like it was retaining the existing wall. I think that's an important feature of the
yeah, I mean
property that's important to retain that
the round.
build it if necessary, but to retain those stones and retain that wall.
Yes. And I mean that's what we have available in the rendering. It would definitely be the round stone with the varied sizes and colors, and the joints would be similar size. similar color, similar depth, so we can be.
They're actually not hard walls to build.
The round,
Karen.
all round are fairly, of all the stone walls, those are some of the
The
easiest.
hard walls are the mix of round and
Flats.
flats.
So,
But
yep,
sorry, but I think we want to clarify that we're looking at retaining the stones and the wall that are there and
correct.
not getting new stones that are similar, but actually maintaining
If we
and
have to
rebuilding if necessary. If something needs to be sort of deconstructed as part of the construction process,
Exactly.
then be reconstructed. I know there are some places where there's some stones missing. I mean, there may be some maintenance or some reconstruction that needs to be done. I know there's some cracks on the flat cap surface, but I think that the wall itself is an important characteristic that
we will save the
originally-
stone. We will save the stone. There's stones that have to be removed for utilities and then reinstall them.
Thank you.
Okay. All right, any other comments from commissioners or questions rather?
Actually, Sharon, I'd like to go over a couple things about, like, we may have comments about the new building, but I'd like to go over a couple questions about the original house, because
Yeah,
maintaining and preserving or restoring and preserving the original house is of, great concern to this commission. And I just wanted to check on the material of the windows and make sure that that meets the standards and criteria for the district.
Well, the windows are going to be an aluminum clad or fiberglass clad factory painted window.
Aluminum clad or fiberglass clad, is fiberglass?
Factory painted window.
There's no restriction against fiberglass, Helen.
Okay.
So they'll look like a painted window.
And then, Mhm.
Oh, go ahead. I was
Okay, go ahead.
trying to answer your questions. And the stucco we're going to do, the stucco is going to have to be removed from this building. It's got a lot of degradation areas that are, moisture, water damage, etc. But we're going to stucco the building back. The whole building will be stucco. We're going to keep the band. We're going to have a painted water table. That'll probably be in wood. We'd like to do a pre-finished simulated copper gutter.
Yeah, I wanted to ask about that. I saw that in the plans. What does that mean about a simulated? What
It's gonna-
material is that says simulated copper?
It would be an painted aluminum, but it would be the color of patinaed copper.
And Nick, is that acceptable?
Nick, you're on mute.
Thank you. The guideline is original or later contributing roofing materials, elements, features, details, and ornamentation, including gutters, downspouts, and flashing, shall be retained. So whatever the existing material is, they have to stay that material.
Okay. So we on the existing house, then we'll have copper gutters, copper downspouts. We are going to do the clay tile roofing. It'll be clay tile, same style that's there. It's a fairly common style. You can still get it. And I don't know if some of it can be saved. Maybe some of it can be saved and we can reuse it, but if not, we'll match it.
And I wanted to ask about the main front door to the existing house and what material that will be.
The archway and the copper balls and all. I'd really like to. I'm going to try to put in the spec and try to do something. I really want to keep the existing and move it. I don't want to try to replicate it. I'd like to keep this original element. And if it has to be stripped and restuccoed, that's okay. It's got two copper balls at the top.
Right.
One of them's pretty dented, but we're going to try to restore those. So I'd like to keep that element as much as possible.
And it's the original front door, which I assume is what is that? Will that be just restored and still be part of the house?
I'm not even sure.
It's wood and glass.
It's wood and glass now.
Right. Well, but will the original door be retained and restored?
If that's something that commission feels is important, we can try to do that. I know that it sort of becomes difficult because some of these old doors don't seal as well. But what do you think, Nick? Go ahead.
Helen, so the guidelines say that doors shall be retained when possible, but if they have to be replaced, they shall be replaced in kind.
So that means that it would need to be a wooden door. I think that's
Yeah.
important.
Correct. Yes.
Yeah.
So if it's a wooden door, it'll have the same glass and wood
Right.
style.
You can't see it there
Yeah,
now.
we don't have a good picture of
Because
it.
it's like an apartment. There's a little vestibule
Right.
boxes there now, so you can see enter the door.
And the other thing I want to ask about that front area there is there's a rail, like a railing there, and I just wanted to ask about the material and color of that, and sort of ask Nick if you think that the style of that is appropriate.
What the front handrail?
Yeah.
That's at the step out at the street.
Yeah. Well,
I doubt that's original.
No, it's not original. It's not there now. It's part of the new plan. But I'm just asking, is the style and material that they're proposing appropriate?
The side or in the center?
It's right in the front. It's like it's going to be on the front.
I see it. No, I
steps.
see it. But in terms of, so it looks like there's two. There's one on the side and one in the center.
Yeah, like farther up, it's on the side, and then the second set of steps lower down. It's changed to be the side. You can see it more on one of the renderings that have the color.
okay. Yeah.
That's the bank of steps at the street.
Right.
And
Yeah.
then
Oh, I
see.
see.
Yeah.
Okay,
yeah.
It's very utilitarian looking, but on the other hand, it shouldn't be something too ornate. So I'm just asking,
Yep.
I just want to check if this
Yes.
is appropriate color
Yeah.
wise.
So it's best practice for accessibility things such as handrails to just be a simple black metal rail. We don't want it to mimic a historic condition because it would be a false sense of history. So these are actually perfect. I would just, the renderings show they're gray. I would recommend that they're black.
All right, that's what I was wondering. They seem
like a black metal rail.
Yeah. Okay.
With integrated color, and that's how we get around the color thing. It's just integrated color, so it's just a simple black metal rail. That's it.
Okay.
Mhm.
And my last thing about the original house, I do want to suggest the idea of possibly making the original house a slightly lighter shade than to offset it from the new building. I mean, I think it'll be obvious that it's a new building. There's that important factor in preservation. If there's a new structure, it shouldn't try to completely mimic the old building. It needs to be, be able to distinguish that it is new. I think the fact that it's a 4 or 5 story building, it makes it obvious it is a new building. But to me, if it almost kind of blends in, and it's almost hard to tell where the old building stops and the new building starts. And at least, I would like
hear
to
your observation,
have the idea
Helen,
of
but
a
I
differentiation.
don't entirely agree with that. The difference in the paint color, I think they will weather differently over time because you've got new material and old material, and they display better. I wouldn't push that point.
What I would say is that we don't regulate the shade, but if we can recommend. So that's, I guess, what I'll say
Okay.
there. Yep.
All right. And just for the record, I like the decorative balls on the new edition. They do repeat that rather charming feature of the older home. I do want to say a couple of things because I live in a very old place. Old materials don't always behave the way we want them to. In moving the house forward, I expect you're going to have a lot of cracks in your stucco. And I'd like to ask that you be very, very careful in
Sharon, they're redoing the stucco on the new property or the existing.
entirely the whole
Yeah.
thing.
Yeah. Mark just said that, right, Mark?
yes.
Yeah.
It's gonna
Okay.
be, it's gonna be impossible to save that, and trying
Yeah.
to
Insulate.
insulate it, waterproof the the underlayment is just I've dealt with these old stucco houses before, and it's just
Okay.
real problematic.
I would
So
like,
you're comfortable with submitting very detailed shoring plans and bracing plans and
Yes, yes,
the
yes.
construction documents?
Yeah, we've done about, I don't know, 6 or 7 of these projects where we moved quite large houses and
Mhm,
yeah, it's
mhm.
gonna, I mean, when the stucco is gonna get stripped, it's gonna be braced, and it's probably gonna get a lot of complaints from the neighborhood. The structure is gonna be moved, but after it all goes back together, it's gonna look great.
Oh, well, you've had years to think about this, so I
Yeah.
wouldn't worry too much about complaints. We're
but
giving you,
I think that that's important, Sharon, that we require a detailed plan for the, however the building is going to move, whether it's going to be
oh,
deconstructed
yeah,
Sure.
or
yeah.
just move forward
Mhm.
on shoring, that we require a detailed plan for all elements of that process be submitted to staff and be approved before any work on the property.
We'll have our
Oh.
structural engineer do the shoring plans, and that'll be part of the construction document package.
So
Okay.
I have a question that might be counter to what everyone else is thinking, but as far as the contrast between the new part of the building and the old, is the new part of the building too ornate? Should the roof just be flat with no spheres? And should there be the roof deck and everything, or should that be resubmitted? The head house and all of that on the roof?
I
The
can
balconies
see your
and
point, Ed.
like is just basically the structure of it just too ornate? Sort of in the picture that we're looking at right now, you can't really tell what's what.
I don't know, Ed. I think we managed to deal with all of the stucco / gingerbread the last 2 meetings on this, so I would respectfully disagree with your observation.
Okay.
Can I ask a question about in the area that sits the tower? Maybe this was there before and I just didn't notice it, but there's sort of a panel, like a rectangular, almost square panel, starting at those 4 small windows at the top. And there's a darker, it's kind of like a frame around it and a darker color. What, yes, exactly that. What material is that? What, can you explain what's going on there?
Yeah, that's those are ceramic tile, like the same color as the roof. So kind of like pulls from the roof the same material and puts it in a panel on the tower.
Hmm.
It's a kind of a fun element, you know, the building should have a little fun to them, a little detail, little delight.
Well,
Which is
there's
what we were arguing with Mark before, right? He added that detail.
um, oh gosh. I don't want to spend time on that at the expense of everything else because there's a great deal that's gone into this project. Unless that's a hill you're going to die on, Mark, I think I'd remove that.
Let me.
Is that added since our last meeting? Is that a new element?
That what the details weren't fleshed out at that
I
point.
mean,
So that
I feel, I'm not sure about it. I feel there is, to some extent, it might, you know, I was talking about making the new building a different color, slightly darker shade. In some ways, that at the roof line of the original house, that to somewhat it distinguishes and offsets
mm,
the original house by kind of having that little bit darker panel. It's hard to tell at every angle. It won't look the same. We're seeing a flat
Yeah.
on angle, which is not how things will always look as to passersby. But so I'm really interested in what other commissioners think about that. Maybe that does give.
Not a hill I'm gonna die on. I mean, it could be stucco. I mean, frankly, it's more complicated for me to detail it and pick the material and all that. You'll make my life easier, but I like it, but whatever.
Well, I like it too, but let's make your life easier, Mark, and just stucco that part.
Okay.
Have have all of the commissioners voiced their views? I haven't heard from you, Kirsten. You still with us?
Kirsten, I think, got kicked out and came back in, but she's no longer a co-host. So I think you need to
I got
co-host
you.
her so she
I
can
got you.
unmute herself.
I got it.
I see. Yeah, and she's muted.
Yep, there we
Yeah.
go. She's all set.
Okay.
Thanks. Yeah, no, I agree. You know, I think there may be a darker color. I don't think the ceramic tile treatment is necessarily needed. I think the balls and some of the other detail is fine. Overall, though, like we're going back and forth on these details. I think it's really much better
I
than
agree.
previously. So I can't say definitively on any of those details.
Okay, well, I hope I'm not jumping ahead, but if all of the commissioners have queried the presentation, is it time to move to public comment? Because we do have some public who wish to make comments. Okay, members of the public will have an opportunity to ask questions and provide public comment on applications and discussions. To do so, please raise your hand in the application via the Zoom meeting platform. We will repeat these instructions throughout the hearing.
Okay. I'm going to Ava, I'm gonna ask Inez to speak first. I know you will have some extensive comments, so I'm gonna select Inez first and then you, Ava. So thanks for your patience. Inez, go ahead. You're allowed to give your comment.
Okay, great.
Minutes,
Okay.
please.
Thank you, and thanks, Ava, for letting me go first. My name is Ines. I am an abutter, and I'm also a member of the Chestnut Hill Reservoir Conservancy. We advocate, for example, the state parkland that's on the rear side of this building. And I've been following this since the previous owners. It's been quite a ride, so it's nice to see maybe it's almost ready to finish up. Some questions about the property line. So if we can look at the first slide, slide 1, there's a drawing, a rendering of the rear of the property. Slide 1. Right, so slide 1 at the top, so please, yeah, on the upper left, if you could zoom in on that. So is that going to be a wrought iron fence there closing off the property?
Yes.
Okay. It's unusual for this neighborhood. If you walk the neighborhood, there's no wrought iron fencing that that other properties have. In fact, all the other properties allow access from ComAv through their property to the state parkland.
That
We would have loved to
We
have done
did
that,
show
but
that
we
in-
got shut down real quick on that.
immediately. This is the privatization of public property. And also there's a retaining wall underneath that.
Okay, I'm just saying this,
Yeah.
it'll be a first for this neighborhood, except for Evergreen Cemetery down the street. So
Yeah.
we'll be with the cemetery. Okay, and that I just want to point that out. It's actually not very friendly, so I'll put it that way. And then if you could scroll down a few more drawings to the there's go up a little bit to the right, 6803. So that's on the left property line. So you're going to have a fencing right along there on your property line. So
On the left, to the left of our property.
this is a photo along your left property line.
Yeah.
So you're gonna have a fencing there, and then the driveway is gonna be right there.
Yeah, let me just see what's going on here. I'll
We have-
let Susan comment on this.
It's actually an evergreen hedge there along that, the center portion of the sunken utility court. And there is a fence there also.
So is there gonna be remaining access for the residents of that building to the left to walk along the side, the right side of their property?
There.
No, I don't think there is now, is there?
No, there's.
There is
No.
now, yeah, if you go back to your photos,
All right, hold on.
Well,
Go
you,
look at it.
if
yep, right there.
we have the retaining wall,
That's
it's-
their retaining wall, and that's their fence, that
Right.
wooden fence, and to the right, there's a whole, so it's all grass. You can
Right.
see it in the photo 6799 a little bit. higher.
Okay, just so we're clear, are you saying that when we look at this photo 6803, they walk on the right-hand side of that wall?
Well, yeah, they're not jumping down there and climbing back up. They're
Yeah.
going along that wooden.
Yeah, no,
fence way.
that's the property that belongs to 1954.
Right, so the question is, oh, that wooden fencing is 1954?
Yeah,
Really?
that's right on the property line, I think. Let me
The
just
other,
make
the
sure
other
I'm
thing is that we
speaking
have a
correctly.
retaining wall so that we can get down to the garage area, so there won't be access on that, between those two walled areas.
So
Right.
here's the survey, the existing condition survey with some markups on it, but you can see the property line is right along along the brick. of the-
Right, so people lose access from. going
Okay, show
going
her,
up to the
show
back.
her our site plan, because there's the wall at the front of the property, and then our retaining wall steps, goes down because we're going below the building for parking.
Yeah, but she's saying that.
Yeah,
that
yeah, I
people
understand you need a retaining wall, and I'm, the question is this, you're just cutting off access for
Yes,
people
we
to
are.
walk alongside that building?
Yes.
Yeah,
And you're putting a fence in the back, so there's no
Correct.
access at all. And on the
Correct.
right side also, you're gonna have fencing, so you're basically enclosing your whole property.
The right side,
the wall steps down.
the wall steps down and kind of, we don't have a fence in this area
No.
here,
We don't.
so we don't really
Yeah.
have a fence.
There is a stone wall there, so
Yeah.
that's part of, I would assume that's part of the property in 1960.
Yes, it is. It's right here.
And so that will, their stone wall will remain. You're not gonna affect that stone
Their
wall.
stone wall will
Correct.
remain, correct.
Okay. I just want to point out, like, you just kind of like going right to the property line and cutting off traditionally what's been an accessible area for people and
Yeah.
all the other properties.
Unfortunately,
The other thing, all right, so if we can go to Street View, Google Street View.
Do you have Google Street View on there?
oh,
I don't think you do.
Nick,
Can
is
you-
that, can
Oh,
you
can
do
you go
that?
to Google?
Do that?
I got it. I got it.
Okay, thanks, Nick.
Do you have to get out of?
do I
Screen?
have to stop?
I think you have to.
No, I can take it over.
Okay.
I think you're referring to Inez. I think you're referring to this.
Yeah, so that's
Yeah.
part of the neighbors, and see, they take good care of that. They put flowers in there, and there's a matching planter like that on the other end of their property at 1980. So I just want to make sure that's not going to be affected. You're not going to knock
No.
that down.
No,
Nope, that's,
Kind of see in the back, there's the stone wall. It's kind of covered. Hasn't been a lot of pruning lately. Okay, I just want to make sure. Thought I would ask. And then this is actually a nice view of that stone wall in the front that I never really thought about. I pass it 100 times, but when I listen to people talking about it, it is a beautiful stone wall, and I see it mirrored in the neighborhood in the Aberdeen area, that kind of stone wall. So I hope it retains. And the only other thing is, you made a comment, Susan, about an outdoor space on the right side of the
Yes.
building. And I think just as an abutter, the acoustics are really loud. And so if you're gonna have people right up against the brick wall, which it is, and they're drawing it, it shows more space. That'll be tough acoustics.
where are we?
the porte cochere is that what?
Let me-
Yeah,
I think I think we're in an earlier meeting and asked about the windows from your and how it related to this building. And Mark, do you have that?
Wait a minute.
Where you showed I think if you go to your,
Are you
You're-
talking about this space here?
yeah, so talking about, so on the right side, there's the angled building of 1960.
Yeah,
And those are all, there's 6 floors of windows
yeah.
don't you
there. And
show
in
it?
the courtyard.
Didn't you-
And that actually would be the remaining access for people to access the parkland from Com Ave
Right.
there, because you've cut off everything else.
I mean, if it's on 1960s property, we're not cutting anything off there.
No,
No.
No,
she's
you're
saying we
cutting
cut
off the other.
ours.
But
Oh,
also,
Okay.
so having that outdoor space, I'm just making a comment that the acoustics are very loud there. just even a low conversation, the acoustics bounce off that kind of rear courtyard of 1960.
The only thing I can think of doing is in the soffit of the porte cochere is doing some type of acoustic treatment. Are you interested in that?
I mean, yeah, I'm just kind of pointing it out. I don't really know what you can do.
We have some.
I mean, besides having outdoor space, there is the whole state parkland in the rear of the building, but.
But we've been required to retain the porte cochere too, though. And
Yeah,
the
which is
garage.
great, which is
So-
great. I know before you wanted to knock it down, I think in an earlier, so I think it's good you're keeping it, or I think.
Do you have that?
Susan's asking me if I have the windows on your building. I may, but what's
You-
that? What's that going to show?
Just the proximity. You
Okay.
did in those
Oh.
elevation. You did
I don't know,
these.
Well, I know I only have 5 minutes.
Yeah.
I just want to point out, and if you could do any acoustic softening, I guess that would be a good solution.
Sure, we can do an acoustic soffit
Yeah.
on the porte cochere.
Yeah, that'd be great.
That might help a little bit, at least the echoing and when people are
Right.
in that space.
And I think that's it. I know you probably don't know, or if anybody has any idea of a timeline, how long the construction would last once it starts.
I'm guessing it's going to be, there's a couple of puzzle pieces to move around.
Yeah,
I'm guessing it's going to be 18 months.
okay. I won't hold you to it. I know there's a lot of
Mhm.
stuff that has to go in. And that's it. Thank you for your time. I'll go back on mute.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Ines. Okay, next up we have is Ava. Ava, just know that I did forward your written comments to the commission for consideration. Go ahead.
Thank you. Just 1 second, I'm so sorry, I had to turn off the air conditioner because it was too loud right next to me. Ines was afforded quite a bit of time, so I hope I will get the same treatment, although I won't abuse it. Could I see the landscaping plan, please?
Sure.
Yeah. I'm just curious, what is the distance from the top of your head, Mark, between the front elevation of the house that will be moved and the sidewalk? How much depth will the front lawn have?
How far back?
No, right. I'm
I believe that.
no, don't go away from the.
Okay, so all right.
Yeah, right here.
That's 20 feet. The front yard's 20 feet.
20 feet. And
Yeah.
you see that in this particular drawing, I don't know if it was intentional, but it doesn't really clearly state that there would be a stone wall in the front. It shows some kind of hedge that is wider than what might be the stone wall, which is depicted as a very thin gray strip, perhaps Right. Yeah.
Yeah. Can you show the existing wall in that one before? It's.
Yeah, but I was looking at the.
Oh, she said you didn't notate it. No, it's not noted on this,
no,
on that, but we think we have it on this, don't we have it on the elevation? No,
It,
yeah, you're correct. We don't have it notated. We should be notated.
yeah.
Yeah. So this is just a side remark that
Yep.
you see, it says on the plan that you have electrical vault there. Is it underground?
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah, so I'm just hoping that you will have enough room left to plant substantial trees in this front yard despite of this electrical vault. And you probably, if you, I very much hope and expect that you will maintain retain the stone wall, just as the commissioners are saying. But in that case, you may not have room for the stone wall and a hedge and a tree and electrical vault.
It's actually like a ground cover
Oh, I
behind the
see.
wall.
So
Yeah,
it's
so
not a hedge.
it's not lawn, but it's not a hedge. No,
Okay.
it would be something low growing, so we hopefully can get the trees in there.
Yeah. All right. Now, Nick, can we move to the main picture that shows the beautiful thing? You know, the design that is just really something that I deeply appreciate. And you know, you know me as someone who is rather harsh on developers and architects, and I'll show you that I have another side to me, because I think that we are very lucky that we got an architect who actually has a vision that doesn't want to ruin this site with some boxy, atrocious structure. And I trust, having heard Mark, you know, his responses and his mention of the need for delight and playful elements and so on, I can relate to it so much, because I think that we don't have any like memorable, beautiful elements that people really, you know, need in their lives. So I would be just heartbroken if any of you made Mark remove those spheres and change the top roof just to a flat roof, because it is actually that little parapet on top of that new building with those balls and with those half round recessed shape that makes this. And I do love the ceramic panel in the middle of that tower. And I really wouldn't change anything. I mean, I had my heart set on those canted corners, but it's not as important to me as just keeping this as it is proposed, because we have to trust an architect who actually has proposed elements that will cost the developer more money. It's very unusual. We have
Okay,
been
Eva, 2 more minutes. I'm sorry to interrupt, but 2 more
Oh,
minutes.
what?
Please give her more time.
Right. I mean, really, I mean, Ines was going as long as she wanted to, and I was going to go first, and now all of a sudden I'm
I
shortchanged.
appreciate that, Eva,
Yeah,
but
yeah.
we read, all of the commissioners read your extensive notes, so we know you've investigated this quite thoroughly. But
Right,
time
but I would
time is limited.
Right. But then let's keep the 5 minutes equally for everyone, okay, Sharon?
It
Right.
still counts
I
towards
would,
your time. You can
right,
talk
I
about
would,
whatever you
Keep
like. But,
going.
all right.
I mean, but yeah.
I would like to ask Mark, you know, those spheres, I've seen them on the famous stone home building on Beacon Street in Brookline, and they are made of some kind of artificial stone that looks just wonderful. But on your plan, it says that those spheres would be made of stucco, which alarmed me a little bit, because I believe that stucco only survives the weather if the building has roof overhangs and it's protected from direct you know, snow and rain. So I'm just hoping that that whatever material you use for those sphere globes, that it's not going to be something that is going to disintegrate from the weather elements. And again, I just you know, sometimes something you can ruin things when there are too many cooks in the kitchen. And this man, Mr. Sangelo, he is an architect, and he has shown that he can create a beautiful building that respects the existing structure and is extremely just visually attractive. This would be the talk of the town. I believe that this actually deserves an architectural award.
Well,
So
let's leave
So
the
that's
awards for
time.
later.
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
I
actually the
agree.
time.
but anyway, so I'll just shut up, and I just want all of us to be thankful that this project will finally happen. I've had 4 friends who lived on Commonwealth Avenue who were interested in this project, and they passed away, and I would love it if this project was built the way it is being proposed, and everyone would be happy. Thank you.
Okay, great.
Thank you
Thank
for
you,
the
Eva. We always appreciate your passion. Great. Commissioners, I will turn it back to you for final remarks and a motion.
Sharon, I do have a few I do want to reach, I would like to reply to Eva's written comments to us.
Okay,
The two main, the two main points she talked about were, from our advisory review, were the canted corners that I had suggested making them to be 90-degree angles in the front, and they were really just canted in the rear. I still prefer the 90-degree angle. I think just the clean crispness of that, but I am willing to consider the canted corners if the other commissioners think that's preferable. Eva also talked about the front balconies and the having a railing. I disagree with that. When there was a railing in the previous iteration, it just was too busy. It kind of hurt your eyes. There was too much going on. I could agree with Ed of not even having the balconies, but if they are to be there, I think they just need to be this simple that will kind of just melt into the building. That's my view on Eva's comments. And
well, actually, Helen, you and I agree on the railings for the balconies, because I recall speaking up against the railing for the front balconies because it gave it too busy and disruptive a look. Canted corners, I'm not going to oppose the majority on that. Whatever you all agree with, I will agree as well. Can we perhaps move the discussion forward to someone undertaking to make a motion?
actually, Sharon, I have actually two other questions that I
Oh,
would
sorry, I
like
don't
to
mean to rush you, Helen. Go ahead.
Sorry. But there's going back to the kind of the original structure, there are two things that I really want to get clarification about, and that is the porte cochere and the original garage. So did I just understand to say that the porte cochere is going to be preserved?
No. The
be-
the entry archway is going to be preserved. The porte cochere is going to be impossible to move. It'll just fall apart. So that'll be rebuilt in
But
to the
use
same.
materials and brackets and reusing the
It'll be rebuilt
architectural
just the way it
piece,
is.
yeah.
Okay. And then I'm not clear on what's happening. You mentioned earlier about the garage doors and restoring, but I'm not clear on what's actually happening with the garage. Is part of that being integrated into the new design, or what's happening with the actual structure of the garage?
The garage, what
Show it in
what
the
we're
plan.
proposing is saving the roof rafters, the rafter tails, which are quite nice, and then rebuilding the garage partially in kind on the site. The doors will be new, but the facade will look the same.
The
So
doors will be replicated, in other
the
words.
doors will be replicated.
And that's
I
sort
want
of
to
where,
use
like, the
the
entrance to the new buildings, will it connect to the new building? Like, well, I can't quite picture, like,
Yeah,
it's hard to
yeah.
see it in the rendering.
It actually worked out fairly well. There was some resistance in whether we wanted to use it, but everyone said we had to do it, so we did it. And what's going to happen with it is so the entryway, the porte cochere, the main entry to the building will be through doors that are replicated,
The
the
garage
replicated
doors.
garage doors.
I see.
And it enters into a lobby with a meeting room, and from there up the stairs or elevator, etc.
So will an actual portion of the original garage be part of that entrance to the new building?
No, but it'll have the same proportion, the same materials as the existing garage.
And okay, so nothing of the actual original garage is being saved. It's not like
Well,
you're
there
restoring
is,
the
I want to save the rafter tails, which are
Okay,
quite
rafter
nice.
But the
So-
doors are not being restored. The doors are being replicated.
The doors are being
But
replicated.
that will be, the material will be wood.
The material will be wood, and I don't remember if are they, yeah, I don't think they have a
They're all-
glass,
they're
they have a
solid.
glass panel?
No glass.
Yeah, they'll be wood.
Yeah, they don't have any glass. They're just that
No.
arched.
It'd be nice to have a glass portion to it, but the door will be, we're gonna do a blow up of the door as part of the construction drawings, and they'll be able to be, reviewed by the BPDA and approved or whatever.
Okay, thank you.
Would you object to a part of the door being glass?
I think they just should be
What they are.
how they are. I don't like. I guess I want to hear what the other commissioner would think of that.
That's a broad question. I would like to play it safe and say, let's have the garage doors as close as possible to the
Right.
original appearance.
Right, we should be
Yeah,
saving them,
yeah.
preserving them as much as possible, even if it's not the original, then a
Yeah.
replication of the original.
There's enough else, and other things going on. I don't think we need to introduce yet another pane of glass.
I hate to be the person who is going on record as hating delight, but I mean, if everyone else agrees that the roof is fine the way that it is, but normally when we do these sort of additions, they're not as ornate, and I know it's a special situation because the house itself that's being moved is a little bit more ornate, but everyone else is fine with the spheres on the roof and that kind of more, because I'm along the lines with the 90 degrees, like as far as kind of meshing with the rest of the buildings, and also the fact that to make it sort of stand out from the existing structure.
No, I kind of agree with you, Ed.
Yeah.
I don't
Or
know.
the delight haters.
But is it, there's this balance of nodding to the original architecture without, and we're just talking about replicating the doors because that's part of the original architecture. But
Yeah.
for the new building itself, you're looking at nodding to it and being reminiscent of it without exactly copying it. And
Yeah. I think it's difficult because if you make it too plain, which I think we've seen, if we make the addition too plain, it doesn't look right. And you make it too ornate, it doesn't look right either. You don't. I think it's a hard question, and I could go either way.
I just think
It's a
there's a lot
Goldilocks thing.
Yeah, there's a lot going on up there.
Mm-hmm. Well, I think it's time that we entertain a motion. And considering how much area we've covered, we've gotten into the details of this. So I'll take a stab at making the motion that we approve it with a list of provisos.
Sharon, do you want to maybe see if it seems like Helen, or some, I don't know. Seems like you guys, in terms of the provisos.
Yes, actually help with the provisos would be very good. So.
Could I add one with the moving, as far as the shoring and the moving plan? Could we make the approval contingent on that? And I'd like to see an effort made to preserve the porte cochere. I probably pronounced it wrong, if possible. It seems as though if the entire house can be moved, it'd be worth attempting to preserve the original and move that as well.
Ed will never be able to do that. It's when you have even.
So I'm just putting forth in motion right now. We're discussing amongst ourselves. You had a chance to speak, so I'm just saying that like make the final approval contingent on a shoring and moving plan submitted to staff with an effort to preserve everything in the house, including the porte cochere. If it isn't possible, then it isn't possible. But I'd like to have staff review the plans and make that contingent on the approval, if that makes sense.
I think that's fine. And just I would just recommend adding to that is just say for the applicant to report to staff on the status of the attempt to save that. So that.
Oh yeah, that's good.
Thank you.
And then if you're okay with it, I can give the blessing either way, but that's up to you.
I think that sounds fantastic. You
Ed,
were better with words than I was on that.
Ed, does the concept include, preservation of elements, preservation and reconstruction of elements if moving it isn't possible?
Yes, using the thank you. Building it the same way, and the perfect example is the retaining wall. So, and somebody else could probably wordcraft this better than I can. If anything can't be preserved, then it must be rebuilt using existing materials or like the similar materials to what was originally used.
Good.
Mm-hmm.
What else?
Well, let me see. The
So
the word
I think
detail comes to mind, so
I th-
you've already promised bracing plans, so let me start over. I'd like to suggest, I make a motion that we approve it with the following provisos. That we have exhaustive detail on the moving details, shoring plans,
Mhm.
and a clear preservation of as many architectural elements as possible. And that all of this be submitted to staff for final approval. Shall I leave it there or shall I go into the detail of the balls on the roof and other things?
Whatever you want to happen. If you want to approve the new building
Can
as
I
submitted,
add, I'm sorry, can I add something to another kind of clause to the the one that Sharon just gave, that
Yeah,
during the process of the move, because things happen unexpectedly, you can't predict everything, that during the process of the shoring and the moving, if any unexpected conditions arise that could threaten any of the architectural elements, that the developer contacts staff and work with staff on both advising that, both informing staff of any issues that are arising, and for staff to be able to, respond and to make sure that we do retain the architectural elements, and that if there's difficulties dealing with them, that can be addressed during the process.
okay. Yeah, staff to be contacted during any unexpected event, which is a given. Since it's
Right.
an old building. Yeah,
okay. I'm going to help us move this along. So
thank you.
we have the restoration and relocation of the existing structure. Does anyone want to emphasize any particular element of that structure?
The replication of the garage doors.
Garage doors. Okay.
All right, good.
Terrific.
The
Okay.
retaining
Next up.
wall and the portico share.
And the portico share.
Yep. And then, so landscaping, what do we want to talk about in landscaping in terms of the approval?
I think deciduous plantings along not deciduous, evergreen plantings along the walkway of the
Great.
the
Switchback. Yep. Great. What about the retention wall?
retaining of the retention wall, rebuilding of it, retaining all the existing stones, rebuilding as needed.
As well as the both ends, the one on the right that's on the border of the abutting property, which we mentioned.
Yes. Yes. Yep.
And let me throw in the two trees. I understand they have to be smaller given the space constraints, but trees are essential in this area.
So you want shade trees is what you're saying.
Shade trees, yes.
I think that needs to be reviewed by staff.
Yeah.
There is, but with that electric box and with the stone wall that we want to retain, the root plan for the root growth for that tree needs to be taken into consideration. So really, it's a little tricky
Yeah.
there. I think that needs to be reviewed by staff for an appropriate
Yeah.
species.
Great.
I
Okay.
mean,
So
the whole planting should be reviewed. The whole planting plan should be reviewed
planting
by
plan.
staff.
Okay.
Yeah, yeah.
Terrific. Okay. What about the new building? What do we like, dislike, approve as submitted?
I would approve it as submitted, but I realized we've got some differences of opinion here.
Did we decide that tiled panel? Did we decide
Well, no, we didn't make any decision. I voted against it, and I think Eva likes it, but she's not on the commission. So it's you, Kirsten, and Ed.
I agree with Sharon on that. I do think that the addition needs to be simplified.
Right. Right. Like I think kind of having the idea of the original house, but on a simpler profile. Therefore, I agree with not having that panel. I could agree
Okay.
with Ed about not having the spheres, but I think we might be divided on that. I don't know.
Now's the time to argue for or against them.
I would say that we could eliminate the roof spheres, and then the roof deck and the head house, maybe work with staff
Come on,
uh,
guys.
on. So we're discussing
Yeah.
right now.
Yeah, it's gonna.
Whatever.
That's inappropriate, but okay. What are we doing?
Ellen, how do you feel about the balls on the roof?
You know, at first I like them, but I just think it's a little too much. I'm having a difficult time with it, but I just think it's a little.
Okay, so it sounds like too non-enthusiastic.
So
here's a suggestion, because I'm gonna have to drop off at 6. I would be inclined to eliminate the ceramic tile.
Okay.
Once you eliminate the ceramic tile, then I think it becomes a balance between the addition being too simple and too complex, and then just complex enough. I'm sort of would be inclined to keep the spheres, but I wonder if we eliminate the ceramic tile and then have staff look at the redesign and make a judgment. Because I do think if the addition is too simple, it will not be, I remember a past design that was very, very simple, and I don't think it went well with the house.
Is there a street view with how this looks with the neighboring buildings? Maybe if the neighboring buildings are also as intricate, it would blend in, or.
Well,
blending isn't an issue here. So
Well,
let me go along with Kirsten's suggestion. I think it's good. Eliminate the panels and then let staff take a look at it again and leave the final decision in his hands, if that's okay with the rest of the commissioners. Helen, Ed?
Yeah, I'm comfortable leaving it with staff.
Okay. So we
Anything
good?
else about that property, the main structure?
No, I think we covered windows and color and everything else.
Yes, I guess, I don't know. I feel like, I guess we can't require it, but to me, recommending a slight color differentiation, but maybe the other commissioners don't agree with that.
I'd be happy leaving it up to Nick.
We can't, so we don't regulate that. We can only make recommendations. So I would say, if you left it to me, I would say we can't regulate it. So there's nothing I can do. So if you want to make a recommendation, that's fine. But acknowledging.
Helen, you want to make a recommendation that there be
well, do the other commissioners agree with that recommendation?
I'm okay with it.
What do you think, Ed?
I'm sorry, which recommendation?
Like,
I was just
recommending a slightly differentiating the color of the stucco slightly, so that the new building is a slightly different.
I agree with that.
Or do you agree with, or do you think it should all be the same as currently proposed?
I agree that it should differentiate itself.
Well, we can make a recommendation.
I recommend, yeah.
Okay.
And take that in consideration if he wants to.
So a couple other things that I don't know if we should include is the HVAC equipment should be out of view from
I think it is, but yeah.
Okay. Yeah. The front retention wall we talked about. The retention wall leading to the parking garage should match the existing.
We discussed that, this retention wall here.
That's a new retention wall?
Yeah.
That's one going down to the garage.
Yes, right. So I agree with specifying that.
Yeah,
There's a comment that the front balconies should be removed and replaced with windows, and the decks could be located on the sides, which I do agree with.
We never really talked about that though. What does the other commission say?
I would prefer the balconies to stay in the front where they are. Moving them to the sides would involve another half-hour meeting, and
Yeah.
I'd rather not. I don't think it's necessary.
I agree with
And the chimney being retained, restored.
Well, we
We
took a
we
look
did
at
talk
that,
about that.
Ed. Yeah,
Yeah.
we did take a closer look at it. It has no architectural distinction, and it looks, the close-up view showed that it was very utilitarian and no point, it would interfere with everything else that is going on with this new construction.
Perfect. Yeah. No, just trying to cross my T's
Right.
and dot my I's.
Appreciate it.
Anything else?
I don't think so. So shall I take a vote?
Oh, who was the first motion?
Helen?
Okay,
No, I think Sharon did that.
I thought it was Sharon.
It was
Yeah.
Sharon.
Oh,
Okay.
Actually,
well, in that case then,
there's so many things. Do you mind just reading that, reciting that back to us?
Yeah. Let me just get to this just to refresh my memory. So the motion was to approve, which with the understanding that the house will be moved forward and the existing design will be maintained. If anything is deteriorated, it'll be reconstructed. If anything has to be removed, it'll be reconstructed in kind. That in terms of the roof, the decorative spheres, after the tiles are removed from the front stairwell area, I should say stair tower, it will be determined by staff if it's appropriate to keep them or not. That the front balconies will remain. That the front porte cochere will there will be an attempt to salvage it. However, if it cannot be salvaged, the applicant will report back to staff for final approval. That the garage doors will be either restored or rebuilt in kind. That there will be shade trees that are planted in the front. That there will be evergreen plants planted along the switchback, and I believe that's it.
Did you say the retaining wall?
Oh, and the retaining wall will be reconstructed. The retention wall will be reconstructed with the existing materials and mortar, and the retaining wall leading down to the garage will be constructed in a similar design as the existing retaining wall.
And you talked about moving the house, but did you say there will be a shoring and moving plan?
Shoring and moving plan,
Yeah.
yeah.
Oh, yeah.
All details submitted to
Yes.
staff before any work
Yes.
occurs.
Yep.
Thank you, Nick. Okay, who wants to second that?
I'll second and vote yes, because I have to drop off.
Okay.
All right, thank you, Kirsten.
Thank you. Okay.
So the rest of us, shall we vote?
Oh, yes.
Oh, yeah.
Yes.
Perfect.
Aye.
Okay. Great.
Ed?
Oh, yes, aye.
Okay.
And me, yes. Aye.
Terrific. Okay. Great. Mark, Susan, thanks for your hard work. I will get you your approval letter out into the mail or out to you tomorrow. And we can discuss any questions that you might have at that time. Thanks for coming by. Great. And thanks for the design. Okay. Next up we have is administrative review. We have one administrative item.
Yeah, sorry about that. Well, we still have the three of us, so I'll talk real fast. It's 27.0037 4 Chiswick Road. Replace two windows in unit with 6/1, wood windows, no low E glass, and simulated divided lights on the interior and exterior of the windows. It appears to be comply with regulations. Am I missing anything?
That
Nope, that's what,
that address has been working through their windows. I think we've seen them before, so I think they have a standard plan.
Yeah, I think they do.
Mhm.
Okay. Vote to approve as submitted.
I'll second that.
Okay, all in favor? Aye.
I
great.
And the
Um,
last order of business before Nick turns into a pumpkin.
yeah. Great. Yeah, so annual vote for chair and vice chair. So Sharon has nominated herself as chair and Ed has nominated himself for vice chair. If everyone could just email me your vote.
Sure.
Oh, what did I do with it?
How are we doing, guys?
sent
Mine is
my
done.
If I can.
Okay. Perfect. Ed, got yours?
How do you spell Brent? Can someone spell Ed's last name for me?
BREDENBERG.
BREDENBERG.
Correct.
Thank you.
God, I can't type on this tiny.
So I got mine in first.
You should get it any second now, Nick.
Okay.
You got it?
So, got yours?
Yay.
Okay.
All right, just sent
And
mine.
perfect. Helen. Takes a little bit to come through sometimes.
All right, it just went out of my outbox, so now it should be there.
Great. Perfect. Okay, great. So congratulations to Sharon to continue her her position as chair, and welcome Ed to being vice chair this year. Thank you both for your volunteer efforts, and
Yes,
we will.
thanks to both of you, and Sharon,
Yes.
you've been doing a fantastic job, and Ed did a great job when he had to fill in.
Oh, thank you. Thank you
Well,
to
I
everyone that
appreciate
voted
all
for
of you
me.
having the patience with me.
Terrific.
We'd be in trouble without you.
All right.
Okay.
Okay.
There's that.
Great. Just moving it along. Sorry, I have an appointment that I'm late for, but so we're actually all set. And thanks for the productive meeting this evening. So we would just need a motion to approve.
You'd like to
or
make a
just-
motion to adjourn.
Yeah,
I will
yeah.
second that.
Okay.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye, yes.
Have a
All
great night.
right. Thanks,
Thank you.
everyone.
Bye.
Have a great
Good night.
night. All right. Talk to you guys later. Bye-bye.
Okay.